Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest, Vanessa Cardenas. Vanessa is a relationship reset expert and betrayal recovery specialist who has helped individuals and couples rebuild trust, restore emotional connection, and regain clarity from the inside out since 2017. She is the founder of Understanding Year and the creator of the Hope Roadmap, a structured approach designed to help people stabilize after betrayal, navigate emotional disconnection, and make grounded decisions about what comes next in their relationships. Vanessa's work focuses on emotional safety, intentional communication, and restoring self-trust when relationships feel uncertain or fractured. For years, Vanessa was considered a best-kept secret, quietly supporting clients through some of the most painful and defining moments of their lives. In 2025, her work was formally recognized when she was named Best Relationship Coach in Westchester County. Clients often describe her impact simply and powerfully. One shared, "Working with Vanessa helped me come back to myself. I stopped spiraling and finally trusted my own decisions again." And with that, Vanessa, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the program today.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much. Oh, you've done your research. You've done your research. Yes. Oh, it's been quite a journey. It absolutely has. And I am so looking forward to our conversation. We were speaking beforehand, and the beautiful Chloe introduced us, and you've had her on your program twice. Oh, boy. We need to get her stateside so that we can both grab a hold of her and be like, oh, take in all her energy, because she is absolutely amazing. And I'm so honored and privileged to be on your program. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, she's just wonderful. She's non-conventional. She thinks creatively. She just does some monumentally great work helping women deal with trauma, release trauma from their bodies, and learn to love themselves and celebrate their bodies and movement again. She's just great. Her energy is just unbelievably just positive. So,
That's true. Very, very true. Well said.
and that means now I got to have you twice.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll have to talk about doing a follow-up now after the podcast is over. For those of my listeners who don't know where Westchester County is, that's just outside of New York City.
That is correct.
And I live in upstate New York, so I'm about 5 hours east of New York City. So, hey, who knows, if I ever get up to Westchester County, Vanessa, I may just knock on your door.
I would welcome that with open arms. Absolutely. The city is great. The city is absolutely great. I was raised there, so I have a little bit of a New York grit to me. But yes, about 30 years ago, we moved out of Brooklyn, New York, and made our way 40 miles north into Westchester County, and we raised our family there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful county. I've been there a couple of times. But anyway, I got some questions for you.
Fire away.
All right. First question. Tell our audience about the experiences that have shaped your life path and your life fashions today.
There were moments of rupture. There were moments that I now, almost half a century later, have language for. When they were initially happening, I didn't have the language for them. And now I refer to them as micro-betrayals. Little instances where I felt slighted, where I felt off. I knew something didn't quite feel right, but I couldn't put words to it. I didn't understand what was happening. And most of the adults around me, "Oh, let that go." You know, yeah, he pulls on your pigtails, he likes you. Like, doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like he likes me and things of that nature. And it wasn't until I found myself on a park bench in Central Park with my husband, who I had been married to for over 2 decades. And he said 3 words to me that opened Pandora's box of all of these micro betrayals, because micro betrayals really are insecurities. And I had so many. I had so many insecurities. And I couldn't put the language to it. My husband had said 3 words. I've met someone. And that was it. My whole identity, who I was just stripped right from me. The ground just opened up and swallowed me. And I couldn't understand why I fell so hard and deep. Smart woman, C-suite executive. I have a psychology degree. I could fix him. I could fix me. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. It absolutely doesn't work that way. And now, years later, almost a decade later, this work that I do to help couples reset their relationship, hopefully before betrayal makes its way in, but when there's ruptures, when there's little things that just feel off, because we know it. We know when we don't quite feel right, that there's something just not, just doesn't feel right. And we need that language, because once we identify it, we can work through it. But when we don't know what it is and we grasp for all these things and fear and insecurities and all these other little things, when we finally have the language to be able to put our feeling with the moment, we can move through it. And we have to move through it. We can't move around it. We can't skirt around it. We definitely can't bury it, because it will resurrect. It will. It'll come back. It'll come back harder. And it'll eat you up from the inside out. And once you move through it, you have freedom. Freedom is glorious. It absolutely is, because now you can talk about it without necessarily getting that lump in your throat. You can honor it in a way that soothes it so that it doesn't have that charge and that electrical charge that eats you up.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it's always been difficult to put language to something that I'm actively going through, because I'm just trying to survive, just wallow through that muck and get through it. And then I can put language to it later, but I think you're right. Putting language is what's going on is powerful, because it helps you understand what's happening. It eliminates any guilt or shame that you may have unnecessarily put yourself through. And it also, I think that type of insight and language fuels behavior going forward that can help you co-create your own reality in conjunction with the universe and become a better version of yourself. Um, the other point that you made, Vanessa, is we have to ride the wave of any of the negative emotions that come through from the betrayals that we have experienced. If we don't ride it, it's going to come back to bite us right in the behind. If we ride it, it eventually subsides. We get to the other side, and then we can ask ourselves, what did riding that wave teach us? What did my pain teach me? How did it serve me? But we can't do it unless we let the process naturally unfold. The process through awareness is never necessarily a pretty one.
Oh, no, it's not. But the one thing about awareness is that it gives you choice.
Yes.
You feel in control, because, right in the moment, you feel completely out of control. You're asking God, source, spirit, the number one question, why? And you want that clarity, because we're all addicted to certainty. We like certainty. It makes us feel good. And when that rug rips out from underneath us, we don't have any certainty anymore, and we feel out of control.
Yep.
And that awareness brings us to choice and control.
Mhm.
And that's what we need, because that allows for stability to start entering in. We don't feel that quakiness, that wave that you talked about. We're going to ride it often.
Yep.
But each time we ride it, we have wisdom.
Yes.
We can pause. We can remember the last time the wave hit and what we did and how we made it through and recognize who we are in doing so, that we can do it again. And this time it won't be so fearful. We'll see it, we'll know it, we'll feel it coming, and we'll know I can get through to the other side. It'll happen. I can do this.
When we confront the negative experiences that we've had, or even the negative parts of ourselves that aren't necessarily happiness, we confront that, we learn from it, we can embrace genuineness, and the fear of confronting negativity becomes mitigated because we've confronted it and we realize that fear can serve us just as well, and dealing with that fear can serve us just as well and teach us as much as the good things that happen to us, or maybe even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every day, every moment, we have a choice.
Yep.
We do have a choice. And we need to honor that choice. We need to recognize that we do have that choice. And that empowers us in a way
Yep.
to know that we have that choice. And we
Yep.
honor that choice. And we make the choice. And maybe we don't make the right choice. And that's okay. You know why? Because we made the choice.
Yep.
We didn't allow our fear to paralyze us in a way that we don't move.
Yep.
And we need to move.
Or we didn't let the expectations of others detract us from exercising our free will. We didn't buy into their perceptions of what we should do or what we shouldn't do. We made the choice. And if the consequences of that choice aren't what we envisioned, we can still learn from it, be accountable for it, and decide, okay, what can I learn from this experience that I could take moving forward? And so I don't make those same mistakes again.
Absolutely. And that leads us to one of my favorite words, pivot. We can pivot. We absolutely can. Why? Because we have a choice.
That's
And
right.
we're in control to be able to decide to pivot.
Mhm.
We don't have the cinder blocks on our feet. We can move. And I encourage my clients to move. Sometimes somatically, move your body,
Mhm.
in just a way to get all of those feelings that you're feeling that you might not be able to name. Your body's feeling it. I mean, one of the best-selling books is The Body Keeps Score. Why? Because your feelings get trapped in here. You got to get them up and out. You just
Yep.
do. And when you do, it's liberating. And you find freedom. We all want freedom. We absolutely do. And we want to know that on the other side of uncertainty that we don't like, we don't like it at all, there can be certainty. And you control that certainty.
Mhm.
And you stabilize how you are feeling.
Yeah.
When you put language to it.
Yeah, we can't have certainty without uncertainty. Love and grief go together. It's all the yin and the yang. Those states or emotions, they exist. And they may appear to be polarized on the extremes, but they exist. And we need that to be able to fulfill and to embrace the full spectrum of our experience.
Because there's a richness in it.
Yeah.
For me, I found myself. I introduced me to me. I had lost myself so long ago. Like my identity was wrapped up in being married. I was a wife. I was a mother. I was an employee. I was a boss. I was a leader. I had all of these titles, but somewhere along the way, I lost me.
Mhm.
And when I went through this experience and I just started putting together why this was affecting me the way it was, because comparison is absolutely the thief of joy. And you are absolutely right that others impose, and I'll say impose. Our friends and family, they mean well. They absolutely do. But sometimes they say the worst things. And
Mhm.
and again, they mean well, but you feel it. And that's why I'm very big advocate for having an army of support around you when you are not feeling right. Something in here is off. And a lot of times your body knows it
Yep.
first.
Yep.
And if you can bring that awareness to yourself and to others and kind of let them know what you're doing, it helps alleviate it a little bit.
Mm.
And that's what we
Absolutely.
want.
And absolutely, the body holds trauma in various places in our body. Neck and shoulders are two common places that individuals tell me where they hold their stress and they hold their trauma. And essentially, anything you can do to release that trauma, and movement is particularly therapeutic. Any type of movement, dance therapy, particularly, can be liberating, can also help individuals reduce anxiety. Is also proven to be very effective with individuals with eating disorder to reduce the anxieties associated with that and to empower them to take a look and maybe reestablish different relationships with food. So there's a lot to be said for movement that releases the trauma and stress from the body.
And grace, a
Yep.
lot of grace.
Yep.
You absolutely give yourself grace. And there's
Absolutely.
no timeline. I get asked that question most often. How long is it going to take for me to heal? As if we can put it into an algorithm, we can answer all kinds of questions and Google just spits out, 87 days. It's like, no, 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 it doesn't work like that. If you believe that you will be miraculously healed to the point where you don't feel any of it, no. Sometimes we still need to feel it, not to the intensity when it first happened, but we will feel it. We will still get those triggers. The question is, are those triggers going to debilitate you, not for days, but for weeks? Or are you going to remember the tools and techniques that you honor how you feel? You don't dismiss it, you honor it, and you recognize, I still feel. It's okay. I can still
Mhm.
feel. I can still honor. I can still tap my heart and remember, I'm here.
Yep.
I'm here. And
Absolutely.
that allows for the healing to start. As I said, comparison is the thief of joy. And for me, that was a really big thing for me to hang on to because early on, I did a lot of comparing. Absolutely, because you mentioned shame and guilt. I took that all on. Even though the betrayal was my husband's doing, I still took it on. I
Mm.
still wore that B on my chest, betrayed. Yeah. And it took someone else telling me, a great mentor telling me. She told me more than once because the first time I wasn't buying it. I wasn't listening. She had to tell me more than once that though this happened to me, it wasn't about me.
Mhm.
And that was powerful when I finally heard it. And that's the key. Usually right at the beginning of something that just knocks you down, we lose our ability to hear because we have an inner voice, which I refer to as nasty chick in my case, that starts screaming at us and we don't hear anything else.
Yeah. That nasty chick voice, or however we conceptualize the voice in our head that tells us that we're less than, gives us those messages that get in the way of us really achieving our true potential. And I think it contributes to the shame and guilt trap that we get into. And we think that's what happened to us is because of what we did. What happened to us, in the case with your husband, I found somebody else, that was out of your control, and the thing is, we go through life thinking that we have control. And what I found out, Vanessa, through my own experience is control is an illusion. It's an illusion, that I don't have control over much other than what I have in front of me at the present time. But it's just to try to anticipate catastrophic events that happen that just alter your life. You have no control over that. In some way, it becomes our ability to transcend that becomes part of the identity of who we become and helps us recommit to a greater purpose, greater meaning in life, and in service to others.
Absolutely in service of others.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek said it perfectly in one of his brilliant talks, whether it was a TED talk or one of his other keynote speeches, about how bookstores are filled with self-help books. But there's no section for help others.
That's
And
right.
I always found that really fascinating because it is very true. The art, even just the art of listening, is dying. We become warriors with these, our thumbs.
Yeah.
Everything is social media, everything is a screen. And yes, while that can be very beneficial, there is something about physical touch. And we kind of go back to Chloe and her work and what she does. Very similar to the work that I do when I have clients come into my office. I don't have a couch. I have a love seat. It forces two people to have to sit next to each other. And that can be a little unnerving, especially when there's tension in the relationship and they're looking to reset it. And here I am putting them right next to each other. And sometimes it is that touch, that knowing that there is another person, there's another breathing soul that can hold the pain and allow you the opportunity to get it up and out.
Yep.
Up and out. That's why coaching and therapy and counseling and mentoring is so important. It's so important for you to know that you're not alone and that there are others that have experienced things catastrophically that can be a mentor, that can help because they've walked a lot. They've cried a lot. They've dealt a lot. And they can let you know that they're not going to carry you. I'll tell you that. I don't carry anybody. But I walk alongside and let them know, hey, this is gonna be what happens. Perhaps. It might not. It might. But if it does, you're prepared for it. And it allows for that opportunity to know who you are. And as I said, we lose sight of it because we get so involved in the muck. You mentioned it perfectly, the muck. We find ourselves not just sitting with our feet dangling in it. Sometimes we're treading right up to our chins. And it takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of support. The support is there. This podcast, other podcasts, other reading material, other opportunities to talk. That once we can use language to describe how we're feeling, that brings a whole different level of awareness to it.
Absolutely.
It gives us the opportunity.
Well, and you made a great point is that we need to be able to establish ourselves as listeners first. That needs to be, I think, a part of every coach's and clinician's repertoire is that they commit to active listening because it does one of two things. One, it allows the individual's story to come out fully and in a way that genuinely represents them. It sends a message to them that I'm here to listen to you, listen to your story, listen to the pain you've experienced as a result of betrayal or any other challenges in your life. And I'm willing to walk with you, not walk the path for you, but walk with you as you find clarity, as you find renewed purpose, and as you begin to discover the language that you need to redefine your life. And if we can do that, that just empowers individuals to be who they need to be and not have to apologize for it.
Well, you touched on a whole other thing about apology. Yes, and we touched on grace. And sometimes we need to forgive ourselves because we are so hard on ourselves. The expectation that we have on ourselves is monumental. And sometimes that's something that we need really strongly a need to give ourselves that grace and to learn to trust ourselves
Yep.
and to give ourselves forgiveness.
Yes.
Absolutely forgiveness. I needed to forgive that 5-year-old little girl who immediately got quiet and stopped talking. And it was very concerning to my teachers when I was younger. She seems to be very shy. No, I'm not shy. I just have this voice screaming at me. Nobody cares what you have to say. So don't say anything. And it took a long time to allow myself the opportunity to speak and to be able to say how I was feeling. But it requires an audience.
Yes.
It's similar to my URL was so important to me. It absolutely was. And I came late on the scene. Though I had been doing this work since 2017, I didn't get online until 2021, 2022, when I kind of got pushed onto the internet. And I wanted a URL that meant something to me. So I chose, as you mentioned, understanding ear. And that comes from a quote from Stephen King, the writer, of all places. But he wrote the most beautiful quote, and I tore it out of a book, and I had it with me in my wallet for decades because I loved it so much. And in short, it said, the most important things to say are the hardest things to say, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear. So my URL became understanding ear. Yes, I know it gets confused with an audiologist quite often, but it means something because, yes, that's what we all need. We want to be able to tell our story to an understanding ear, someone that will hold our pain with us and allow us the opportunity to get it up and out and give us an opportunity to breathe. Because a lot of times our story gets caught right here, right in our throat. Because again, we have, in my case, a nasty chick on our shoulder going, nobody cares. You don't have to say anything. And no, I did. Because for me, I needed to heal out loud. And I realized that once I had mentors and great coaches and great therapists that were guiding me and really giving me the opportunity for stability, because that's what I needed. I needed the ground to stop shaking. And when I realized that the ground at one point was shaking because I was shaking, the betrayal had happened. My husband had already said the words that he said. We already had the fallout. But for me, the ground was still shaking until I realized I was the one shaking it. I was the one that was quaking because I was filled with fear. Fear gripped me in such a way that right here, my story was right here. I couldn't get up and out. For months, I sat in a support group, never shared my story. I listened to everybody else's. I offered things that I was learning about, but I didn't share my story
Mhm.
until someone pointed it out and called me out on it. I didn't quite like that. And my nasty chick was like, who do they think they are? How can they talk to you like that? Blah, 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 and whatnot. But when I got up to that podium and I shared my story from start to finish and the tears all flowed out and everything else, yeah, the freedom that I got was overwhelming. And that's what we need. We need that opportunity to share our story and feel it so that we can get the stability that we need. We're not going to have all the answers. We're not. That's okay. Once we start with the stability, everything will fall into place.
And for my audience, if you want to know more about the origin of the nasty chick voice, Vanessa did a very dynamic Oxford talk where she talked about the nasty chick voice. I remember that it surfaced when you were 5 years old, when you were told nobody wants to hear what you have to say, and that continued to follow you throughout your life until somebody pointed out to you in a community, a supportive community, you haven't shared your story yet. And then when you finally did, the tears flowed. It sounded like it was a cathartic experience. And was that the turning point for you when you were able to share your story, not pay attention to your nasty voice, that you began to dissipate the intensity of the messages that nasty voice was coming through to you with?
Okay. What a glorious question. It happens simultaneously to something else. I had found myself often on my bedroom floor, pretty much in the fetal position, crying, like not understanding why this was happening. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I finally begged God, source, spirit, I need a reprieve. Please, I need a reprieve. I need to be able to sleep. I need to be able to function beyond my job and my career. My job and career had no idea what was going on because I could keep it together for those 8 hours, and the ride home I was in tears, and the ride there I was in tears, and all the rest of the time I was in tears. I remember so distinctly being on that bedroom floor and just asking God, source, spirit, and I heard it like a thunderbolt. You have to help someone else. You misunderstood me. No, I need to help. Please help me. And I heard it again. The second time I heard it, you have to help someone else. And I grew angry, like you are not listening to me. I need the help. Please help me. And it said it a third time. And I finally relented and said, okay, I'll help someone else. So the next day I woke up finally being able to sleep more than like 2 hours at a clip. And not that it was a miracle, but 1%, I felt a little better. And that evening, I went to that support group. And that's when I got on the podium. And it felt like it was synchronicity. Like it was just supposed to happen. Because after I shared my story, many people came up to me thanking me for like my brutal honesty. And the leader, the mentor, approached me afterwards and said, he pulled me aside. And she says, you're being selfish. And I was offended. Everybody else had come up to me and, gratitude. And then she's coming up to me telling me I'm being selfish. What is she talking about? Now, I'm the unofficial ambassador for everyone else. I listen to everybody else. I offer, whatever I can do to help and whatnot. And you're calling me selfish? And she said, Vanessa, you're really only helping 11 people in this room. You need to get out there. You need to share your story. You need to write a book. Write a book. You want me to share my story publicly? I was in the self-contained group. I was okay with that. When I finally got called out on it, I get up to the podium, though still shaking. And she was the one. She fostered me all the way through, and she encouraged me to get certified in different modalities related to it. She was the one that contacted different professors and had me sit in on classes, even though I wasn't a student at the various universities. I could sit in the back and just partake in them. She was the one who really encouraged me to come forward and to be a light for others. Because in the process, I was healing too. It was good for me to feel that I was being beneficial to others, that I was serving others. And now I look out for those synchronicities. And when they happen, oh boy, I think, oh God, source, spirit, thank you. I did it before we got on this call. Thank you. Because you and I met through Chloe. And you and I have subsequently introduced each other to other people that we have made an impact on as well. We are spreading this ripple that happens. Oh, it's so good. It absolutely is so good. And from a personal perspective, when I got into this field in 2017, it was really suggested that I go big, I go global. I help as many as I can. I'm only one person. And yeah, I realized, wait a second, as you mentioned, I was the best kept secret in my community. And that started to weigh on me because I've lived in this community for 30 years. I wanted to have an impact on my community as well. And when I was honored with this award of being the best relationship coach, oh, there's something about it that warms my stitched elastic heart that I can't even put into words. Me, speechless, me, who encourages people to use language. I become speechless on it because I know the ripple effect. I know what it did for me. I know what it did having somebody else believe in me, feed me, hear me, understand me, encourage me. And that's what we need. We absolutely need that, especially when we feel as if we are broken. We're not broken, but we feel that way. And we don't have the language to describe how we're feeling. And we're questioning everything because we don't trust anything anymore. We had certainty. Things were supposed to be this way. We had our future mapped out.
Mhm.
And then it got snatched away. I am still married. We just celebrated 35 years of being married. Yes, it has a little asterisk next to it. Yes, it means, oh, wait, there's more to the story. Absolutely. But we worked really hard for our marriage. But we have a different relationship now. Obviously, I'm a different person. He's a different person. So we are going to have a different relationship. And that's what I share with my clients. They walk into my office gutted and they're like, oh, I just wanted to go back to the way it was. It's not. It's not going to go back to the way it was. But there's possibility. There's possibility on the other side. You just have to breathe, pause, get some stability, and just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And you'll get there.
Yeah. And, that kind of segues me into my next thought is that it sounds like you and your husband had your own version of betrayal recovery. And I know you deal a lot with betrayal recovery and push that with the clients that you work with. What does betrayal recovery look like? When do we know that recovery has been complete or you're on the road to betrayal recovery?
I'm going to be very hesitant about the word complete because it's never complete.
That's why I change it when it's in process.
Yeah, it's always in process. It is. Relationships are always in process, whether there's betrayal or non-betrayal. Just because you say I do, the work isn't over. A lot of people seem to think that the work is getting to the I do. No, the work starts with I do. It really does. And I so encourage communication as well as being able to express yourself, because once you start shutting down, that's when the cracks start to form in a relationship. And those cracks are when something or someone enters and we lose sight of each other. We start to micromanage our marriage. No, we don't want to do that. If anything, I really encourage couples to caretake each other's confidence.
Yeah.
Be in each other's corner. The problem isn't for you to battle each other on. The problem is for you to battle together. Let's focus on this together. That's why sometimes couples find themselves when there is a event that happens, that they unite. I know it, if my children had something going on at school, and they got called to the principal's office, my husband and I went as a united front. What's the problem? What's going on here? But we would be united. We would be a united front. And that would energize us. because we suddenly realize we're on the same side. And that's what I really encourage my couples to remember. You're on the same side. You're absolutely on the same side. You might have a little bit of a difference of opinion, and that's okay. It's okay to have a difference of opinion as long as you respect each other's opinion and you have some integrity with that as well. And you're listening to each other, not what sometimes it's not what was said, but was heard.
Yep.
What did you hear? And that's a lesson that we do a lot in my office. You mentioned about getting the story up and out and letting just people talk and the art of listening. Well, it's not only from a coach's standpoint, but it's from a partner's standpoint. Because a lot of times I can see the other one just waiting to say something and I'm just listen. And then they're kind of taken back when I'm like, okay, I'd like you to tell me what your partner said. And they're very taken back because they're so focused on what they want to say that they don't realize that they actually didn't hear what their partners said.
We have to be able to reflect on what the other person has said to make sure that we're getting it clear, to clear up any misperception. It's important to establish that in a relationship. You give one party an opportunity to voice their concerns, and the other party listens to those concerns, and then you ask the party the receiving party, what did you hear your wife or your partner say to you? And that's the way to do that. It establishes each person as a listener, because you're right. We're worried about, many people are worried about what they're going to say next, as opposed to hearing the message that's being presented to them. And if they worry about what's being said next, they're not going to listen. So, and it's important that you establish listening as a norm for any type of rebuilding trust in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. My favorite is they think that they can read each other's mind. Well, I've been married to him for 20 years. I know what he's thinking. Really? You do? Yeah, let's see. And that's usually a very interesting exercise that I do with clients.
Yeah.
Because it is important to be able to honor each other, caretake each other's confidence, love each other, self-love as well. Because sometimes we find ourselves loving our reflection in our partner's eyes and losing sight of our partner.
That's right.
Your investment in your marriage, that has the biggest ROI that there is. Absolutely, hands down. It can be a relationship that lasts a lifetime. And that's what I encourage. I do. Some clients come and they want to separate, which is fine. No judgment either way. But as long as it's amicable and there's no, that's usually when I step out. If it is contentious and they're losing sight of themselves and each other and their children and their community, and they're just bickering for the sake of bickering, and it's more, I have this, you have that, I want this, you want that. That goes into a whole different realm.
Well, I can imagine too, it's got to drain your energy as a coach to try to navigate those very acrimonious dynamics.
It is a dark space.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is therapists and coaches, we need to be able to set boundaries on what we're willing to experience in the treatment setting with clients, or what we're not willing to experience, and to be able to say, I don't believe I'm the person at this point to help you get through these problems that you're having. I don't see any type of resolution. Perhaps we can refer you to somebody else that may be able to deal with these dynamics more effectively than me. You're also recognizing what your limitations are, that I can't do this. And that sends a powerful message to a client that you're referring them to somebody who you think may have better skills than you do for that particular situation, or maybe more, have the resources to deal with those type of dynamics. And the message that they're going to eventually get down the road is that you had their best interest at heart.
Yes, down the road. It depends on the language that you use. And this is where I have a bit of an issue with the fly-by-night coaches. And when I say that, I'm talking about the coaches that get a weekend course and, have 6 hours of training, have no psychology background whatsoever.
Yep.
And suddenly they're a coach and they find themselves in a situation where hopefully they say, you know what, I'm not the right person for you. I have to refer out, that they do it in a way that doesn't cause the client to take on the guilt and the shame as if their problem is too big for anyone to handle, that there's something so wrong with them, that they're so broken, that you, who I'd come to, I've enlisted your help, and you're telling me, yeah, no, I can't help you. As long as it's framed with, I'm not equipped to help you.
Yes.
I want to refer you out. I want to get you the best person for you,
Yep.
rather than just dropping them, because it also affects our industry. And I'm very cautious on that, as well as staying in my lane. I am not a therapist. I am a coach. And there's a very big difference between the two. And when I have clients come into my office, and usually it's one spouse who has sourced me and the other spouse is kind of tagging along, they're getting dragged to therapy. And the second they sit down, I'm like, okay, first off, I have to let you know this is not therapy. I want to clear that up so that you make no mistake about it. And that I find very interesting. So I want to be cautious with the referring out process. I want anybody listening to this to know that when somebody does that for you, it is not a reflection on you. It had nothing to do with you. It is the person in front of you recognizing that they're not equipped to help you. And that's okay, because there are others. There are many others, and you will absolutely find your person. Some people come to me and they're like, oh boy, the New York grit and the red in the hair, and you're just a little too much for me. Okay, no problem. I have others. I know others that do this type of work. I can absolutely refer you out. I take no offense to it, and I want to make sure that the client knows not to take offense to that.
And it's important to frame it with love and frame it in a way that they know that it's in their best interest for you to refer them to somebody else. Because to me, clients are going to come to a coach, to a therapist, because their world is chaotic. They're not feeling safe within that world. And they're coming to you because they're hoping to get structure and feel safe in the process and get help. And I think be able to tell them that, look, I am not equipped to help you deal with your problems at this particular time, but here's somebody else that can. That I think will down the road make them feel more safe. And that's important, is safety and structure, whether it comes from us or it comes from somebody else who may be more equipped to deal with those particular issues.
You definitely want to find somebody that gives you a little bit of structure,
Mm-hmm.
is flexible. And I want to stress that, because there are some that have a structured program and they follow it to a T, and you'll come in and I'm having a really hard time with triggers. Oh, well, we cover triggers in week 6. We're only in week 2. That's not helpful.
No.
I'm sorry. It's just not helpful. So while you need structure, you're kind of controlling that structure, if I could be so bold. The client, because whatever the client is experiencing in that moment, that's what they need help with. And then you can move on to other things. But the stability that is needed, absolutely. We could spend hours talking about that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But it's structure, it's restraint, and it's clarity. That is what I feel my role as a coach is to provide some structure so that you have some stability, have some restraint. Because again, it's not my journey. I already did my journey. I've already seen the path. I'm not at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost going to be bold enough to say there is no end. We talked about that before, about, the recovery. When is the recovery over? It's not. It continues. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's why, in AA, you get chips, 25 years sober. They still honor that.
Mhm.
I honor that. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And, we're always works in progress. So, therefore, any type of recovery is ongoing. The work isn't over just because you've been able to find the language, identify the language, apply the language. It's always one day at a time. And you remember what you did that got you there, and you continue to do the same thing. So, boy, I could go on another hour or so, but Um, I got a couple more questions for you. First of all, you mentioned writing a book. So you have written books.
Yes, I've written 2 books. I wrote Dealing with the Devastation of Your Partner's Betrayal, What to Do When Your World Falls Apart. It's essentially the guidebook that I needed. It was not written for commercial success. It was not written for academic success. It is not filled with jargon that is just overwhelming. For me, I had stacks of
Hmm.
books. And again, there weren't many books. I was reading a lot of psychology books. There weren't many betrayal books,
Yep.
but I just found them overwhelming. They were overstimulating. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I wanted to write a book that has very short chapters. They're 1, 2 pages at the very most. They explain what's happening and how you're feeling. And each chapter ends with a journal prompt that hopefully at the end of the day, when you want something to read, again, the structure is very loose.
Yep.
Whatever's happening for you that day, if you're having triggers, let me flip to the chapters on triggers. And I run through it with you. And then there's a journal prompt at the end that allows you time to dump out what you're thinking so that the final thought that you have, hopefully before you're able to close your eyes and go to sleep, is something a little bit more positive. That you recognize, okay, I've learned about this topic. I understand this topic. I can accept how I'm feeling,
Mhm.
understand that this is normal, how I'm feeling, even though I feel uncertain, that
Mhm.
this uncertainty is normal, that I'm not the only one, that this is normal. I'll be okay. You'll be okay. I just have to breathe and pause through it. And one of the, teaching techniques that I put in the book and the journal prompt. So the book for me was that. And it's the gift I give. And I was incredibly honored that a renowned GYN doctor wrote my foreword because unfortunately, a lot of times betrayal is discovered during an annual exam. And she has had to have, of the 3 most difficult conversations that she has had to have with patients in her illustrious 40-year career, the betrayal one is extremely difficult because she'll walk in and, Mrs. Smith, I need to let you know that you have an STD. Oh, that's not my chart. Mrs. Smith, I need to let you know you have an STD. I've been faithful. I've been faithful. What are you talking about? And then the silence. And then they realize what's actually being said. And then they fall apart.
Yep.
So she wrote the foreword to my book. And I'm incredibly honored to that. And so much of the feedback that I got from the book, and again, people aren't going to go and pick it up off of Amazon and then write a review, kind of declaring that they have been betrayed. I get that. Totally get that. And that's why there's a section in the book towards the end, send me an email, let me know what you thought of the book, what I could do to improve it, if there's anything that I left out. And the feedback that I got indicated, well, I don't know how to talk to other people. So I wrote a follow-up, how to talk, dealing with the devastation of your partner's betrayal, how to talk to your kids, your parents, your in-laws, your friends, your colleagues, because that was important too, because we need the language around it. We need to be able to, if we decide to share it, how to share it. Because what you're going to say to your 5-year-old is going to be very different than your teenager, different than your in-laws, different than your own parents.
Mhm.
Provided that guidance as well. So I'm very proud of them. As I said, they were not written for academic or commercial success. They were the guidebooks that I needed, and I'm proud of them.
Well, I think the best books, Vanessa, are the ones that are the most relatable, that are easy to read, that have short bulleted points, or just you get to point A to B and from point A to B to C in the most direct way possible. Because I think the more steps you have to anything, the more complicated it gets and the more difficult it is to understand. And for individuals, I can imagine, who are going through betrayal, there's probably a lot of grief-like responses in terms of inability to concentrate, some dissociation in terms of, geez, who am I now? Dissociation or unfamiliarity with a world that now has become terrifying. And it's like, how do I navigate that? So I think it's important to have books that can meet the needs of those individuals and give them information in a very condensed way, in a way that's going to be congruent with their concentration levels. And besides, I just like books that are very accessible and very simple to understand, simple processes. And I could present this to an individual and say, here.
Hmm.
And in this way, they can just take it and run with it. So you've left us with a lot of good information, a lot of takeaways, a lot of teaching points. But I'm going to ask you to give me the one ultimate teaching point or takeaway you want to leave our audience with today, Vanessa.
You don't have to have all the answers right away. You absolutely do not have to have all of the answers right away. Stability comes before understanding. Breathe, pause, have your own heart. You are the most beautiful, unique creature. Honor yourself. Move through, and you will get to the other side. Daily practice, daily decisions, daily.
Well, thank you for that, Vanessa. And my final question for this podcast, to give you an opportunity to promote yourself a little bit. If people want to get in touch with you, purchase your books, contract for your services, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, my digital footprint is actually very large, but the best way to reach me is my URL, which I mentioned is understandingear.com. And you can learn all about me, all the services that I have, my books, all the articles that I've written, my podcast appearances, as well as, you mentioned, my Oxford talk, which I am ridiculously proud of. It hit the ground running. It's over 300,000 views. It is so bittersweet for me because it touched a lot of people, but it touched a lot of people who have a wicked inner critic. And it talks about how to quiet her down.
I like it. I've listened to the Oxford talk. It's terrific. I mean, that the way you presented it on the podcast is the way you presented it at the Oxford talk. Just a very genuine representation of who you are, a very passionate talk, and a lot of good takeaways for individuals who've gone through betrayal or other life challenges. So, Vanessa, thank you so much for spending time with me this evening. Thank you for such a great conversation. We have to do this again.
I look forward to that, Dave. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.